Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Elizabeth and I run the blog lifefromtheviolasection.com, where I share my favorite practice tips, general advice, and tech for musicians. Today I am super excited for this video because I am sharing a review on the book Girl Unstrung by Clara'S Handscombe, which is a young adult novel about a violist, and I'm so excited to share all about this book with you guys. So Claire asked if I would like to read her book ahead of its publishing date because I'm a violist. So I of course said yes, and she sent me this copy of her book for the release, and I'm so excited. It's so pretty. I love it. So I've never done a book video like this, so if I jump around a lot, that's why. I love to describe books that I read to my boyfriend, and we usually have to sit there for an hour or two as I retell the story and talk about all my thoughts and opinions. So this video is not going to be an hour too long, but it might jump all over the place. In today's review, I'm mostly going to avoid spoilers, but if I do say anything kind of spoiler-y, then I'll let you know beforehand, and I'll put a timestamp up on the screen so that you can skip there and just avoid any spoilers. Let's get into a little bit of the background of the book. So the back of the book says, "Nothing's going to distract Clara from her burgeoning career as a viola player. Not her semi-famous dad, not her new stepmom, not her annoying sisters, and definitely not Tim, the swoopy-haired Scrabble geek." So it's definitely a fun book and very young adult, so if you have more of a mature reading style, then this might not be for you, but if you are a teen or if you just like young adult books, this is going to be a good fit for you, even if you're not a musician. So basically, this book takes place in 2016, and the main character is Clara, who is a 14-year-old violist trying to audition again into like a fancy performing arts high school because her plan is to go to Juilliard and get a big symphony job. But of course, like, real life happens like it does for all of us, and there are a lot of like trials and everything. So as soon as I started reading this book, I related to who Clara was when she was in high school. It was a lot like how I felt when I was 14 and 15, and within the first few chapters, there was a Taylor Swift reference and a Gilmore Girls reference, so I was in. I was very excited. I was all in, if you get the reference. Okay. Of course, a problem that I always have with adult books is that sometimes I have a hard time reading them just because of the maturity level of the character. Sometimes I'll just, get a little bit annoyed if they do something stupid or if they think something that's totally not true, but if you're a teen or if you're younger than a teen and you're reading this, then it probably makes a lot of sense, because if I was like 14 reading this book, then I would have totally related and it would have been super simple. So some of the inner monologue that Clara, the main character, goes through reminded me a little bit of Princess Diaries, which is one of my very favorite young adult series. I've always related to Mia so much. So a lot of the like I have this written down in my bullet journal. I have lists and all of this, and just like her thoughts on boys and everything. It's like a lot. It's very similar to that. So I liked that aspect of it too. And you can tell that Claire really did the research on the viola and famous pieces for the viola, because she name drops so many like composers and pieces and lots of different like styles of playing and all of these just viola vocab words that we as violists all know about, and that made it feel very relatable. Sometimes it felt a little like okay, this is trying to really like, I don't know. One thing that I didn't like along that same line was, okay, this is something that I do like. There is at the back Claire's glossary of musical terms, and it's written like from her perspective, and it explains a bunch of musical terms like alto, clef, arpeggio, bow, cello, double stops, etude, fingerboard, things like that, which is very helpful for readers who aren't musicians, which I think anyone could read this book, and with that glossary and with, just the trials and the trajectory of the character's progression, it would make sense. It would be totally fine. But the thing I didn't like was that a lot of those words were italicized, and that might just be like the correct grammatical formatting that like etude has to be in. Maybe it has to be italicized because of the type of publication it is or something, but to me it felt a little like contrived and like vocab-y, so that is a very minor detail on the editorial side, but to me it felt a little like, Okay, I know what an etude is. I don't need it italicized. Like, I feel like I'm reading a textbook, but that was very, very small. It only happened a few times. It only stuck out a couple of times here and there. So it did take me a while to really feel invested in this book, simply because I think a lot of the interesting things happened, like, halfway through the book and on. From there on out, I was hooked and I read it really, really fast. I've had a hard time focusing on books this year. Like, I keep buying more and more books, and then I'll start each book that I buy, and then I'll go on to the next one, and then I won't finish any of them. So that was, this book kind of fell into that pile of, like, started, but then I bought another book, and then I wanted to read that one, and then, yeah, all of that. So at the beginning, while I loved it, I thought, like, I wasn't very attached to the characters, but once about halfway through I did get attached to the characters, then I really cared, and I wanted to see how it ended, and I wanted to keep reading more and getting more of the story. So it took a little bit for me to actually, like, really get into it and consistently read it. That might be more of a me thing than the actual writing of the book. But, like, if you start it and you feel like you don't quite love it, just keep going and see how you feel later on. I think my favorite part of this book came kind of close to the end. Let me find where it was. Yeah, it came, like, I guess about 2/3 of the way in the book. But she visits a friend of hers in London. I don't think that's too big of a spoiler, but she visits a friend in London, and just, it's her first time there, and just experiencing all the sights with her was just, like, really magical. I really loved that part of the book, and there's a lot of kind of a self-exploration and changing happening in that part of the book. So that was, like, my absolute favorite part. I really want to go to London now and have, like, a proper afternoon tea now and just explore the sights. That part was just, like, so good. The ending actually kind of reminded me of Mean Girls. And if you read the book, I think you'll understand why. It's, like, a similar kind of scene. Not, like, the very, very end scene, but, like, the wrapping up part of the movie. It's, like, very similar. And I'll just put up a picture here so that if you've read it, or if you do read it, you can kind of see what I'm getting towards, because I don't know how to put it into words without, like, totally spoiling everything, and I don't want to spoil everything today. But I really liked how it ended. Okay, so I might talk about some spoiler things, not specific events, but some character progression things just now. So if you don't want to hear any of that, skip to this time code right up here, and you will avoid all of that. Okay, spoilers coming up. Skip ahead, skip ahead, skip ahead. Okay. So I really liked how Clara'S character progressed, especially, like, in the last, like, 20 or 30 pages. I don't know. It's probably not a good marker, but something happens to her where it's like she can't really do what she wanted to do the whole book. So she finds other things and she learns a lot about herself, and I feel like that is very relatable as a musician, because we realize that achieving all of the dreams that we might have once had, like going to Juilliard and getting a job in one of the big professional symphonies, which were exactly her dreams, those can be very hard to even try to achieve, and you can't have, like, a normal life. Like she had kind of the realization that I had when I was probably, like, 18 to 20, that if you want those things, you can't really have other things in life. And personally, I want to live a relatively normal life, and that means that I'm okay with not going to Juilliard or getting a job in one of the big professional orchestras, and that's okay. And I think that that's a great message. Okay, not a great message. It's not a very positive message, but it's a very good, realistic world view to portray in a young adult novel, especially if young musicians are reading this book and seeing, like, okay, like, these dreams really are hard to achieve. Like, I'm not trying to put anyone down, of course. Like, I'm a musician, I know what it's like. But it's very hard to go to Juilliard or get into a professional orchestra like London or LA Phil, which were, like, the two orchestras that she name dropped in this book. Like, it's very hard to do that without sacrificing other aspects of your life that a lot of us, at least here in the US, want to have, like having hobbies and friends and social time and, you know, maybe having a family or having pets to take care of, just living a normal life. Like a lot of people say that you have to practice 6 hours every single day and lock yourself into a practice room and get rid of your social life if you want to get to Juilliard or if you want to have a professional orchestral career. And sometimes that's true, sometimes it's not. It's not always true, and I'm not trying to make huge generalizations here, but I think it's very good for teenagers who want to become professional musicians to realize that, because I feel like so many of us think like, oh yeah, if I just practice, I'll be able to do all of these things. But first of all, there's so many factors that go into it. Like, you could play one scratchy note in an audition and otherwise be flawless, and then the next person didn't play a scratchy note and everything else was great, and so that's why you didn't get the job. But I'm not trying... I feel like I'm gonna talk myself into a hole here, but I feel like explaining to teenagers that being a musician is really hard is really good, even though I feel like society tells us that anyway. But this book had like the right way of saying it, at least with where I'm at in my life and my music career right now. Like, it wasn't the whole like, you won't make money being a professional musician, so why try? It wasn't that at all. It was the like showing how much you sacrifice when you really, really want those things, which if that's what you want, then that's great. And that's what Clara wanted. More spoilers. That's what Clara wanted at the beginning of this book, and she was totally okay with that. And then as she grew, she realized maybe she does want some like social life things or other parts that she had to sacrifice and give up for her dreams. So then you realize, like, how can I kind of fit these together and have a life and do something with music that I really love, even if that's not playing in the top orchestra or getting into the very, very top school. There are still meaningful things that you can do. There are still great things that you can accomplish and do all on your own, or, you know, with other places. There's so many options, and I feel like Clara started to realize that, and maybe that was me like extra reading into the text and like applying it to my own life and having my own outcome and my own reading of this book. But like, that's what I got, so I really, really enjoyed that at the very end of the book. Just Clara's character progression and how that fits in with what I have recently learned about the music world, along with like graduating and all of that, like seeing how hard it is to actually achieve things when your teachers tell you like, just keep practicing, like you'll get it. It takes so much, and it's such a big sacrifice that I think portraying it in this book was really, really great, and I think it's a great thing to put out into the world for teenagers to see and realize before they go to music school and do all those things. Like, I would not go back and do anything else in college. I don't regret my decision of being a musician at all. I love what I do. I love teaching and creating content here, making blog posts. I love doing all of that, and I love that I've created that. But I created that because I realized that I probably wasn't going to be like a huge famous violist someday. I realized I didn't really want to live in a big city, so those big orchestra jobs weren't really going to be good for me because I'd have to live in or very near a big city, and that didn't seem right to me. And also, like, I just didn't have the ability to put in all of the hours of practicing that I would need to do. So I came to a similar realization as the main character, but in a different way, but we both got there, and that realization I think is very important to portray. Okay, I think spoilers should be done now. I read some other reviews of Girl Unstrung that criticized the way Clara viewed the love interest in this book, because sometimes she really likes him and sometimes she just kind of hates him and talks really meanly to him. But even though it doesn't make sense, I thought it was very accurate for a 14-year-old girl. Like, just seeing myself and my friends in middle school and how we would act towards each other and towards guys, I thought it was very real. I'm not saying that real has to make sense, because especially for 14-year-olds, what you're doing is real, but it doesn't make sense. Like, I thought that the writing was great for a 14-year-old. Of course, like, if she was 17 or 18 or even in college, I don't think it would be right. But for 14, I think it was spot on. Okay, this is going to get a tiny bit spoilery again, but I'm not going to use any context. So, there was a really big medical moment in this book that happened to a character that was not Clara. And it was really unexpected to me, and I feel like in a young adult novel, I think it was good and well done, but it was very like happened suddenly, and I was like, whoa, okay, like this happened. I think if it was a book that was geared towards a younger crowd, it would have been dealt with differently, because an older crowd might have experiences with that medical happening. Sorry, I can't think of the right word. And there you have to get careful with like trigger warnings and things like that. I can't think of any other young adult books I've read that talked about that specific medical thing. And I thought that it was very good to include that in a young adult book, because it's something very real that happens. And the more people talk about it, I think the better everyone can feel about this thing that happens. You know, there's a lot of misunderstanding about this thing. I'm sorry, I'm not saying what it is, just because I'm trying to avoid spoilers as much as I can, but if you read it, it happens to a character other than Clara. But I think the more it's portrayed in books and movies, media, all of that, I think the better we all can react if someone in our life goes through that situation, because we've seen it somewhere else. So I thought that that was, even though it popped up really fast, I thought that it was very good that it was in there. Maybe it could have been done a little differently, but I think the fact that it was in there in and of itself was good. On the same topic of medical things, Clara does have like a repetitive use injury towards the beginning of the book, and she's always like taking Advil and saying like, I need to work through it, I'll just take more Advil. And like, I know what that feels like. Many violists know what that feels like, more so than a lot of other instruments, maybe like cello. I know violinists who have gone through similar things, but the viola is very heavy, and a lot of us do have pain in our wrist or our arm from lifting up a heavy instrument and from moving our fingers so much. So I thought that it was very, very good that she included that as well, because so many young violists are likely not prepared for that. But the more and more you practice, the more and more likely it is that you'll encounter something like that. And I never really had much pain. I had like, you know, aches and pains playing in orchestra rehearsals in high school, but nothing major until college, when I think it was the first opera that I played in that I really hurt, and I had to take a lot of Advil, and I needed to rest as much as possible, but I couldn't because of the rehearsal and the performance schedule. So it was kind of a shock to me that it happened, because it had never happened before. But these things can just spring up, and I think the more we read about them and the earlier on we read about them, the better prepared we're going to be. So I think it's great that all of that was included in a young adult novel that teens might read. Teens who might want to be professional musicians might read this and realize that, oh, maybe it's bad that I need to take Advil for this pain every day. Maybe that's not normal, because a lot of young musicians don't realize that these things aren't normal, and that you shouldn't really have any pain when you play your instrument. And a lot of us don't talk about that before going to college or even during college. A lot of people find out, I've seen online on Instagram in the community that I'm in, and it's something that needs to be talked about a lot more widely, and it's great that this is being included in a young adult book for teenagers. So overall, I really did enjoy reading this book. Something I just love right off the bat is that the background of the cover is purple, which is a color that is widely associated with the viola. There are a lot of pieces written for viola that reference purple, and how the tone of the viola can kind of be seen as purple. So I love that. Also, Clara's favorite color to wear is red, and she's wearing red in the cover. So I thought that those were really beautiful touches. So you can pre-order this book. If you pre-order it anywhere, there is a link in the description where you can submit your receipt, and you'll be entered to win a gift card to Alto-Clef Gifts, which I really, really love. I have this beautiful Rebecca Clark Sonata mug from Alto-Clef Gifts, and it's one of my very favorite mugs because it's like my favorite viola piece, and it means a lot to me. So Lisa over at Alto-Clef Gifts makes amazing Alto-Clef gifts for violists or anyone who plays Alto-Clef. But if you're a violist looking for a book, or if you have a violist in your life who loves reading, then you can buy this book and enter to win a gift card so you can get them even more gifts relating to the viola. It's an awesome bundle. So I just wanted to let you all know about that really great deal because it's awesome, and I love this book and I love Alto Clef gifts, so it is a great collab. You can also pre-order from Fountain City Bookstore to receive a signed edition of the book. So if you're interested in that, you can go there, and I have all the links that you need in the description. If you liked this video and you like book content, please like this video and also like my pinned comment down below, because I would love to make more content all about books and the books that I read, but I need to gauge the interest first. So if you are interested in that, please like the pinned comment down below so that I know and I can make more videos like this, because I love to read, and especially if I can find more books that are like kind of musical but not like a lot. I don't like it in a cheesy way. I did love the book If I Stay when I was a teenager. I don't know if I'd still like it now at 25, but I really, really liked it when I was like 16 or 17, especially because there was a violist in the book named Elizabeth. So that was very, very nice. But if you'd like to learn more about the books that I read, and if you'd like to hear my thoughts on bookish content, then please like that pinned comment down below so that I know and I can make more content like that. If you liked today's video, please consider subscribing to my channel. I post new videos every Sunday at noon Eastern Time, and I also have a Ko-fi profile where you can support my content if you feel so generous. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.